Hello there! This video will show how I make my own homemade ground cover to use on my model railroad layout. To start, you will need to get some sawdust or ground foam as shown here. The sawdust I got from a friend of mine who does a lot of woodwork. I find sawdust from pine boards to be the best for me because of its light color. You can use sawdust from other types of wood, but just remember that sawdust from darker wood will give a darker finished product from the same mixture of dye. The foam came from the stuffing inside a pillow and just ground up. You may have to put the sawdust or foam through a standard kitchen sifter with a fine wire mesh to get rid of the coarse stuff. Next, you will need to get some dye. I use standard fabric dye for coloring clothing you can get from a fabric or craft store. I buy different colors to get a good mixture of shades for my ground cover. The basic tools I use to do the job starts with a bowl and something to stir the dye. I prefer a metal bowl for this. You will also need a square section of cloth to put the sawdust or foam in, and you will definitely need latex gloves, unless you do not mind having green hands for a day or two. In preparation for this job, I first lay down some newspaper on a flat surface in order to spread out the sawdust or foam to dry. I find the basement floor a good place to do this. If some of the dye seeps through the newspaper while drying, it will not hurt the cement floor. I then put on the latex gloves in preparation for coloring the sawdust or foam. When doing the dyeing, you will be putting your hands right in the dye mixture. Place a bunch of sawdust or foam onto the cloth laid out on a flat surface. Then carefully pick up the sides of the cloth so that the sawdust or foam is completely covered up by the cloth. Next, I fill my bowl with ordinary tap water. You do not need to fill the bowl to the top, just enough to completely submerge the sawdust or foam in the cloth. Next, add the dye. There is no set amount of dye to add to the water. You will need to experiment here. The general rule is less dye will give a lighter ground cover and more dye will give a darker ground cover. You can also mix in different colors of dyes to the same mixture. Here I have used Kelly green dye and added a little forest green. Then dump the cloth bag with the sawdust or foam into the mixture. Squeeze the bag over and over to allow the dye to soak into the sawdust or foam. You will need to do this at least long enough for the dye to cover all the material in the cloth bag. Now spread out the sawdust or foam onto the newspaper you previously laid down on the floor. Break up any lumps and evenly spread the mixture out on the newspaper. It usually will be dry and ready to use overnight. And that is it. Just place the finished product in a plastic bag to store away when it is dry or use it right away. This picture shows the finished dyed sawdust I made in this video. placed in a plastic bag and ready to use. Here are bags of different color sawdust ground cover I have previously made. I made sure I had lots of different colors to give a variety of shaded ground cover for my layout. Here are bags of ground up foam cover I have made. I have coarse and fine grown foam here, along with different colors. I hope this video has been helpful to you. My next video will show how I make my softwood trees. Be sure to check out my previous tutorial videos for model railroaders on YouTube. If you wish to contact me with any questions, here is my email address.